Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 with Titus Kahooutek on the Mastering Midlife podcast. On part 1, we talked about physicality. We talked about exercise and how to take care of ourselves, about the mind-body connection, not the mind-body split. In other words, don't be watching TV while you're working out. Be in your body and learn from yourself. In this episode, we have Titus back to talk about food, nutrition, lifestyle, and how that all fits in. Titus has been doing this for 17 years. He runs the Heroic Training Systems gym in Seattle, Washington, and he also can be worked with virtually, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. It's something I'm going to be doing, and I really encourage it for everybody else. Titus, thank you and welcome back.
Happy to be back, Mark.
So now we talked about exercise, we talked about rest, we talked about the mind-body connection. Now tell me, let's go into food for people in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah, food cannot be overstated, and it can't be skirted around. It's one of the things I like to think of the body as is like an equation. It's 1 part biology, and the biological facts of our body, the cells, the metabolism, the structures, there's certain non-negotiables about biology that just are facts. This is how our bodies work. And then 2 parts philosophy, so how we see ourselves in the world and how we see the world itself and how that shapes our biology. You know, things we love open us up, things we hate pull us in. And so the way we see changes the world. And that has a lot to do with food and lifestyle as well. And then the other little pinch is mystery. So 1 part biology, 2 parts philosophy, and 1 part mystery. And the mystery is everybody's different. We all have our unique makeups, and so any one-size-all kind of diet plan is already failing. It's already a failure if we try to internalize that for ourselves without listening to how our body understands the food and the information we're supplying. So when we talk about nutrition, that's one in the biological category of cells don't bullshit. You can't negotiate with your cells. Bottom line.
So that means the way that was told to me was in stark terms, 98% doing a ketosis diet doesn't work. The
right.
2% is going to make you fat and give you a heart attack.
Exactly.
It's either 100% or nothing because it's all science.
Exactly. And if you're doing keto just because I think I read about it and it's something I want to do, but I don't actually know what even my biochemistry is, then I'm playing with magic I don't understand, and there's consequences for that.
And I am reaping the benefit of those consequences. At this conversation, I am now the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I am ripe and surrendered to your wisdom. So where do you start? You start to have a conversation with someone about food. What's your first conversation?
My first conversation is how real you can be. How real can you be? Because people are very addicted to their food and their lifestyle. And so for the most part, honestly, I work on acceptance first. Can you accept yourself for who you are and how you are? Period. Don't make any changes. You're fine. People love you already. You're here. You're valuable. That's all that matters. Now, if you want to start building more vitality into your life, if you want to start building better digestion, well, let's start eating the right foods, and your body will tell you what's good and bad. But let's start with something really basic, okay? And that's the first thing is the 4 basic food groups. Forget about what you learned in school, but very little meat, but the best sourced meat. So really high quality lamb, high quality chicken, high quality beef, grass-fed preferably. If you can source it, if you can really, really get it from the best sources possible, that's even better. So that's first. Second,
so slow down. So that's a rich person's game. What do you do? What do you do on a budget?
Minimize how much you eat and eat the best food you can possibly eat.
So in other words, put your money to the quality, not the quantity.
Absolutely. Put your money to the quality, not the quantity. Cut your cable off. Live in a smaller place. Eat the best food available in your vicinity possible, period. That's where you invest your actual value.
So so if it's between Game of Thrones and grass-fed beef, Game of Thrones gets thrown out the door.
Gets thrown out the door. How willing are we to have that conversation, right? And if we're not willing to have that conversation, you could only expect so much good results. You could still exercise. You can still get a lot of value out of your exercise programs, all of that. You could be a healthier, more heavy person. If you really want to see the shifts, it's going to come through bringing down inflammation in the body. So making sure that you're eating lots of vegetables, minimum amount of grains and carbohydrates, like almost very thin line. Yes, but thin line. For me, for example, if I eat too much bread products, my skin breaks out. My body doesn't do as good. It processes it, just not as good.
I can't use my, when I eat sugar and too many bread products, I can't use my hands.
This is a great example. So there's things like that all over people's bodies that if they never take those things out, they don't know that it's causing it. Right? So playing with your nutrition, using yourself as the test tube or the laboratory where you can actually take in various things and listen to your biochemical changes and then adjust based on that. Where do I feel more energy? When I eat this, do I feel stronger or weaker? Am I honest about how that's impacting me? Do I even know? And as long as you're willing to adjust those and modulate, you can keep expanding your vitality and how well you process food. If you're addicted to them and you don't want to let them go, well, then that's going to be your stop zone of where, okay, then I have to accept, the ache and the pain here, or the stiff hand. That might be part of, I like cheesecake, is
And I
my
do.
stiff
I
hand.
make the decision. I'm going to eat dessert. We had a party this weekend, and there was homemade desserts and homemade chicken pot pie and macaroni and cheese. And I did myself in, and I made that choice. And I
And
knew,
that,
I
and that,
knew it would take a day and a half to get everything working again.
Yes, exactly. And to know what that costs over time. So that erodes on the back end too. So depending on your individual, so a person's individual appetite for fine tuning their performance. Do they really want to show up at their best in the situations that matter most? Do they want more energy at work? Do they really want to be more present in their relationships? Because if they really do, people will really do what it takes.
Got it. So
And
I'm forgetting to be the interviewer, and I'm totally in conversation with you for the personal gain.
mhm.
So let's keep going down the line of what you're suggesting for people. So we look at our food. We eat the best meats,
Best meats,
and we forego cable if we can't get the best meats. Then lots of vegetables, minimal grains. Keep going.
minimal grains, a little bit of fruit. If you want to lose weight, no fruit. Keep it on the very minimum. If you don't mind the weight you're at and you want to maintain where you are, fine, fruit. Eat some fruits. That's good in there. If they're causing digestive issues, take them out. If they're inflammatory, take them out. And then alcohol to a very, very minimum. Some tequila they say is pretty good if you're going to drink any alcohol. I myself maybe have 2 drinks a week is my what I do. I like margaritas on Thursday nights with my wife.
So
Um,
the red wine as a health benefit is not
Yeah,
part of
no,
your
it's
program.
not a health benefit. It might just not be a health catastrophe, but it's certainly not a health benefit. And metabolically, and as far as sugar is concerned, it's certainly a detriment. And it will definitely keep you static at your weight or increase your weight over time.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Coffee.
Coffee is good. Your morning coffee is great. I think that there's a lot of benefits to that. If you're drinking tons of coffee and making your body more acidic, that's probably bad. If you're having one coffee in the morning or a little bit in the afternoon, all good, all wonderful. As long as it's good for you. Again, I can't say what's good or bad for each individual because each individual's biochemistry will register to them. This is good and this is bad if you're listening. And that's when it comes down to our physical practice again, when we talked about before, our physical practice. When you have that baseline of a regular practice, you know how your food affected you because you feel depleted the next day. You know if you have the energy to
So
really do your
this is
workout.
again being conscious. It's deciding to be in partnership with your body, to be one with your body instead of divorcing yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And then like, did I sleep well? Did I eat well? Did I get my hydration right? So when we talk about nutrition, hydration is key. There you go.
Got my water.
Yeah. And to gamify it all, you know, you're building this beautiful body mind through your practices. If you could build a beautiful relationship with your food, this food is informing every one of my cells. This food is informing the shape I exist in. You know, giving your food some meaning and value of what it's actually doing in the body. You know, it's building your future self. So what do you want to be built from?
It's
McDonald's?
it's interesting because I was reading a new Gay Hendricks book, and he was talking about when he lost 100 pounds. He was 100 pounds overweight, and one of the things that he says is you there are things you can't control, and one of the things you can't control is how much you weigh today, but you
Mm-hmm.
can control what you put in your mouth. And the
Yep.
way he did it was he wasn't even punitive about it. He decided that he was going to be in relationship with everything he put in his mouth. Just what you're saying.
Boom.
Lost the 100 pounds.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
being conscious and being in relationship with what you're, because you know that you go in the refrigerator and you just stuff something in your mouth and you don't even know you ate it.
Or even worse is the guilt you eat with it,
Go
right?
on.
Like I know I ate this thing that's not good for me. That knowing also eat guilt. Like we also eat the emotion, right? And the emotion almost has a more detrimental impact than just choosing to do it and knowing how it processes.
As you know, as a host of a podcast and trying to be the interviewer, I was doing better on responsibilities of executives. I was doing better on parenthood. I was doing better on mental health. When it comes to food, I am so, you know, that's the weak uh, um, leg on the chair for me
So
is
let's drop
food.
into that for you. What is food? Give me some definitions.
So anybody who knows me or talks to me thinks I'm a health food nut.
Mm-hmm.
But more and more, my quiet binging has been steeping in. The other thing is, I do eat. If you looked at what I ate, I am healthy for an
Mm-hmm.
American. I am even healthy for a 56-year-old man. But I am not eating to where I want my life and my body to be and my
So
health.
what again, what is food? What is it?
Oh, depends. Sometimes it's nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's entertainment. Sometimes it's a complete distraction and an addiction. So if I'm not going to go read news to distract myself, if I'm not going to use social media to distract myself, I'm not going to buy something to distract myself, why don't I go eat something to
Eat
distract?
something, distract yourself. So it's a sensation. So food is a sensation. Okay. So part of it is really understanding that relationship for what food really is, you know, and something I like to bring everything down to is nourishment and information. Everything. Anything we bring into our body mind. And that's all data. All data. Like anything we read, see, eat, touch, feel, anything like that is nourishment and information. And how are we nourishing our body, mind, and spirit with what information?
Got it?
And if we really understand that and build that practice into this, even a snack can be good information and good nourishment.
Go on.
Okay, so it's more like yeah, and
This
that
is Mark sweating and uncomfortable on his own show.
so let's re-evolve that. Let's look at the nourishment and information you're taking in, right?
Right.
And can you, for the next 24 hours, be really mindful about the nourishment? What part of this what part am I feeding, right? I might be nourishing a little childish part of myself,
Mm-hmm.
right, with this candy. I might be nourishing the immature reaction. That might be okay too, but know that you're nourishing that dimension.
Got it. And for this 24 hours, it's really easy because we just came back. So I had my shake this morning. It was pristine and beautiful. Had my lunch, which was just some rolled up, organic turkey with some cheese, and then a piece of dark chocolate, and then come up to do the podcast. And then dinner we haven't decided yet. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's where we go mindful.
Mindful, and maybe it's even just if I could leave you with those two words, nourishment, and information. And what do you hear when you hear those words? I mean, they're just words to me, but in the context of this
So
nutrition.
nourishment to me is, am I eating something that's actually food? My lament is constantly when I watch sporting events is the 10 uh, food advertisements that I see are not actually food.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even food. So I watch that. So when you say nutrition, am I eating something that's actually food? Is it a vegetable? Is it
Nourishment,
right?
not nutrition, nourishment.
Ooh, so nourishment is great. What's going to make me feel better? What's going to make me feel good? And what's going to uh, bring me down? So I know grains are going to bring me down.
So this is what we're talking about, right? When we can really understand nourishment, how am I nourishing myself with this information?
Got it.
And
So
that's
if you're listening to this podcast in the car and you're squirming, I hope you're squirming with me as I confront this live with you. So
absolutely.
the next piece I want to talk about is aging and the
Mm-hmm.
amount of food we can eat. So I was just talking to another nutrition coach, and I was talking about how well I actually eat for a human being, and I still am not losing the weight. And she said, Mark, everything after 50 that we put in our mouth, times it by 3. You have to work that much harder after you're 50 in order to be able to be thin and fit than you would before 50.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that a little bit. There's a couple things. Is one, the myth of a slowing metabolism with aging. And why I say it's a myth is because there's a huge link, and there's a developing link between mood and metabolism. And if we have a lower mood over a long time, our metabolism slows over time. Part of the mechanism of youth is excitement. And something that we dampen down over time is excitement, literally getting excited about our day. And when we're excited, the word even that stimulates all of our cells to ramp up their activity. It's ramping our metabolism. So ideally, you're living in a story that you're excited about every day. And that stimulates your mood and your metabolism to be generative. And that's a big part of how we suppress the process of aging that we come to expect. So that's one thing, is don't believe in a slowing metabolism.
That was a little nugget you're not going to hear anyplace else. I feel like I just got the scoop there.
Right, and there's a big myth, and we blame aging for this slowing metabolism, and we even have lots of studies that show it. But what we're seeing over time is that the studies are reflecting more of the practice of how people have aged, not aging as it relates to aging itself.
So how we age versus the actual fact of aging is the most important thing.
Yes, age skillfully, age intentionally, age with practice, physical practice, nutrition practice, relationship practice, stillness practice, learning practice.
Wow, great. So now give me some final thoughts on nutrition.
Yeah. And then the other, so when we talk about aging, is what they're finding a ton of success in is intermittent fasting. Okay, and this is where everybody might have their own version, but it's really stopping eating sometime around 8 to 9 in the evening, and then don't eat again until, almost noon or 1 the next day. And then eat your meals within there, maybe 2 meals with a snack in there. And so it's not calorie restrictive necessarily, but you're just not constantly processing food. So our body has an opportunity to process energy, and then we resupply it with energy. And then it processes energy, and then you resupply it with energy. So experiment with that range. What's the least amount of time you can get your calories in a day? And what kind of fasting ranges work? Some people have a little teeny snack in the morning, and just like I have a little coffee and it has some milk in it. And so that's like fasting, but not really. It has a little calories, but very little bit.
So
And
the bulletproof coughing and the bulletproof intermittent fasting is
aversion.
okay.
It's a version, and that's good too. You know, so if that one works for you, that's great. If nothing in the morning works for you, that's great. If it, you know, whatever that mix is, but intermittent fasting, they're finding a tremendous impact on weight loss and weight maintenance.
Where could people go to find information on sound intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting. Dr. Perlmutter is a really good resource. Dave Asprey, obviously with Bulletproof Labs, he's a good resource. Perlmutter, Asprey. You know, I could share with some more, or even just looking up intermittent fasting and best practices will yield a lot of results.
So I did really well on the bulletproof intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Did really well on that. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So great. Titus, tell people where people can find you.
Anytime you can find me at heroicstrainingsystems.com. That's our website. My email address is titus@heroicstrainingsystems.com. You could also find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're all those places. And, you know, to work with me, we have coaches, we have nutritionists, we have naturopaths. Something we're doing for executives, something you might want to check out, Mark, is we're doing a full biohacking like a 6-month biohacking intensive where we really set up injection therapies. There's ways you can really bolster B vitamins and NAD therapy and cryotherapy and all of these ways.
So is that local to you in Seattle, or is that for
local
people?
to me in Seattle? But we can partner with people in your area to find who's doing it and then set you up on a course of like, okay, this is what Monday through Friday really looks like, you know, and really how do you build the most vital biology possible for you as an individual. And our naturopath does blood work that really understands your genetics and specific supplementations based on your genetics, specific nutrition based on your genetics and blood type, so that nutrition can be much more geared to the individual than just a cookie cutter, this is what you should eat. Every individual needs to discover their best nourishment, their best information for what's required of them.
Beautiful. Titus, thank you for spending the time with us. My high endorsement for Titus is that he is going to be my next coach. So I can't endorse him enough, and the wisdom that he brings to this subject matter. He's going to come back to the show to talk again in the future. Thank you for spending the time with us. And everybody else, thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. If you didn't listen to it, go listen to the part 1 of our conversation where we talked about exercise. If you have any topics that you'd like us to talk about, please direct message me and let me know who you'd like me to interview and what you'd like us to cover. I really thank you for spending the time with us. I love you and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.